So welcome to the Finding Mojo show on Cairns FM 89.1. I am so delighted to introduce my guest, Kirsty Nancarrow, who is the author of the Himalayan Dreams book, which was launched on Saturday, the 2nd of March. Now, we'll talk about that a little bit more as we go on. And also, Kirsty is the director of eMotion Video Training Production. Welcome to the Finding Mojo show, Kirsty.
Thank you, Jo.
It's so lovely to have you. I was fortunate to host the Rotary Hour a couple of weeks ago when you were talking about your Himalayan Dreams book, and actually really get to understand and get to know you a little bit more. With this show, the Finding Mojo show, I do invite people, like yourself, that are doing exceptional things in the community, to come on board and people can just get to know you a little bit more. So for you, if I was to say Mojo, what does that mean for you?
It's the life force. It's the thing that really puts a spring in your step, that makes you creative, that is the reason for being.
Yeah. And I did hear you say when we were doing the other interview on the Rotary Hour, you were talking about waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning and stuff like that, or even earlier.
Yes,
when you're, okay.
It's pretty common. And I would like to say that ended when the book was finished, but it's continued in some parts. Whenever I have a lot on and I get excited, then my body just, as soon as it's conscious, it's like, let's go.
Yes.
And I used to fight against that. But now, as inconvenient as it is sometimes, I accept that it's for a reason, and it's my body telling me, right, we've got things we want to do, and we can be creative at this time. So I've gone just with the flow a bit more, and good things happen when I do. Yeah.
So that's very much the Mojo flow, isn't it, would you say?
Yeah, it is. So it's about tuning into what works for you. We have this notion of an 8 to 5 working day, or Monday to Friday, and we turn up to an office and we conform and we tick all these boxes. But really, when we work, when we are doing our best work, which can be different for many people. For me, it's earlier in the morning. For my business partner, it's in the evening. So everybody's different, and I think the more we tune into what works for us, the more productive we can be and the more creative.
Thank you for pointing that out, because I do think that perhaps people kind of put themselves in a box sometimes by comparing themselves to other people, do you think? And then try to operate that way?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think if COVID taught us anything, it's that we can do things differently, that we don't have to be in an office altogether, that we can work from a cafe or we can work from home and have that sort of richer life where we do some loads of washing through the day and we don't save it all up for our downtime on the weekends. It's just a better way of doing it. And it's more adult, I think. We don't need to necessarily go prescriptively, this is when you are going to work, because it doesn't work for everybody. You can't force it sometimes especially if you're doing something creative or something that involves a lot of focus. It's really hard sometimes to push it in times where you're not naturally very focused, like 3 o'clock in the afternoon for me. I really struggle at that time. I'm really flagging by then because I am an early riser. I usually do some exercise walking in nature in the morning, and by the middle of the afternoon I'm like, ugh, it's a real struggle to keep pushing. I'd rather have a break. I think the Spanish do it well. Yeah. They have the siesta and then they go again. And sometimes I do that. I will just like, all right, that's enough now. And then I'll kind of have a second wind after dinner.
And that's such a good point you're making too, because I think, trying to force yourself, like you said, that 9 to 5 job or whatever it is that we kind of try and force ourselves into is not where the creativity happens, is it, in that structure? And if you are lucky enough to be able to play with that and, you can actually develop the best version of yourself, can't you, by getting to know how you operate and fine-tuning that.
That's right. And there's a real freedom in that. And, you end up having more time because you're being more efficient with the time by tuning into when you're doing your best work.
I absolutely agree. And you seem to, like you say, be more efficient. And things seem to evolve and open up when you're in that flow, I suppose, don't they?
That's right. You can surprise yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you come from a background with media with the ABC for many years, and I hit you up for this interview at the last minute and just sent you through some questions, to sort of give you a couple of prompts. And you've had the most massive few weeks now, like prior to launching your book on Saturday the 2nd, leading up to that. And yet, here you are, at the end of a huge day, your husband's cooking dinner at home. What a wonderful man.
He is a wonderful man. He is an amazing support network, and I couldn't do all of the things that I do without him. He's very much part of any success that I have.
Yeah, and I'm grateful for him because, he's allowing you to express yourself fully into the world. And you did speak last on the Rotary Hour, you did speak about the difference between, being in the media with the ABC like you were for many years under the pump with lots of deadlines, but it was a daily gratification, and the difference with this book process. I mean, how long's that taken you now?
If you chunk it out, so the concept was 7.5 years ago.
Right.
The first action I took on it was probably, 6 months after that, in terms of getting together with Som and saying how are we wanting to do this, and then another sort of year before the opportunity to go back to Nepal and do the interviews arose, and then another couple of years after that again before I could free up the space in my world to be able to focus on this. And it was actually my husband who said, if you don't leave the workforce to do this project, it's never going to happen. And I know how much this means to you. So we basically started squirreling a bit more money away about 6 months out. And then COVID happened. So I was working at Queensland Health at the time, and they're like, could you stay a little bit longer? So I ended up staying a few months longer than I had intended. And then it was all like all the pieces fell into place in middle of 2020. I had decided to leave the workforce. We'd saved a bit. We'd kind of had a contingency plan for me not doing much paid work. I had my media training business, but that was only a little bit of income. And then I got a regional art development fund grant from the Cairns Regional Council. And that was like the universe just reinforcing that this was the right timing. So I'd already been patient from the end of 2016 to 2020 and held on to this dream of writing this book. And then from 2020, I then had a year to execute this, to acquit the grant. I asked for a little bit more time, and then again finished the book in just over a year, and then another 2 years trying to get this beautiful story published. So yeah, it's taken a long time. It's not a quick process, and yeah, it did require some stamina and a lot of moments of self-doubt along the way, a lot of moments of frustration.
Would you say you may have lost your mojo along the way?
Absolutely. And
how did you find it again?
In terms of the writing process, I really got stuck halfway because I thought, I've written all the good stuff. I had this, burst of energy and enthusiasm. And even though I'd had a structure for the second half of the book, I kind of went, I've written all the good stuff now. And I didn't really have that faith in myself that I could sustain the reader's attention for the second half of the book. And I actually went to a writer's retreat with Dr. Kirsty Nancarrow, who is actually launching her book on the very same day at the Tropical Writers Festival on the 9th of March.
As you have the Himalayan Dreams as well. How beautiful.
And at the time, I went to her writing retreat after that. She really helped me. Just going on that writing retreat actually gave me the mental space to check out from anything else in my life that was going on at the time and get some mentorship, get some advice, do some writing prompts, and actually get the juices flowing again. That's the only way I can describe it. And Kirsten sort of teaches just get up and write, morning pages, she calls it. And it was just that process of physically writing anything that came stream of consciousness in the diary in the morning that kind of whet the appetite for more writing, and then having a chat with her about the rest of the book and getting a little bit of a review on what I'd done so far, it really just ignited that whole second half of the book. I got a lot done at the retreat, and then we decided to be writing accountability buddies. So she was writing her book at that stage as well, and we would check in with each other saying, all right, how many words have you done today? And it really helped with getting that back on track. So I found my mojo again. And finally, because I do work well with deadlines, it wasn't until there was like a month left, and I said to my business partner, Susie, at that time, I said, look, I'm going to need to just check out for a month and finish this thing and do nothing else, because I was trying to do like a couple of days a week writing and then a little bit of business, so I had some income coming in. And yeah, I just said, no, I need to put everything in here. And some days it didn't work. Some days I was like, well, I have the intention to write, but really it wasn't happening, wasn't feeling it. So that's how I ended up doing Sunday mornings at 4:30 and whenever else the urge took me.
I love it. Thank you so much for sharing that. Now, we're going to go to a little break. First, we're going to play a song, and you've got a little list of songs. Would you like to introduce the first song that you'd like to play and maybe give us all a bit of an insight about that view, why you chose it?
Yes. So this is the song that made me fall in love with radio.
Oh.
I was 9 years old. I was in year 4, and my year 4 class went on an excursion to 2WS in Western Sydney, where I was living. And we went into the studio like we are now, and I was fascinated. And the announcer played Walking on Sunshine by Katrina and the Waves. And it was such a joyful song. It stayed with me my whole life as my pick-me-up song. So whenever I hear it, I can't help but, feel excited about life and joyful and great.
So we have Keisha coming in to share with us her monthly tip. What have you got for us this month, Keisha?
Hi, Jo. Today I would like to talk about connection. It's all connected. So our body is a beautifully created ecosystem. And we are like our ancient tropical rainforests here in far north Queensland, where all life, plants, animals, fish, all types of species rely on each other to create and flourish and live as a healthy whole. So we're a whole person, and being a whole person, it's a system. And our voice in particular is connected to all of our body and responds to so many influences, outside influences, body influences such as hormonal changes, health, medicine, mental well-being, environmental, social, cultural and spirituality can impact on how we use our voice. So there's a lot going on.
Wow.
Yeah. Next time you are needing to speak in public for work, sing or perform, be really, really kind to yourself. Take some time to think and, be mindful that we are human and we are a whole system, and life can get in the way of how we use our voice and how we feel about our voice and our vocal health in general. There's no right or wrong when we are navigating life and our body. And we can only do the best we can do with what we know and have, and at the time, outside influences. And as we navigate through life, that can be real. There can be a lot going on. People often mention a life experience in injury, stressful situations, medication they may be on, and say, look, this has got nothing to do with my voice, as my voice is separate. It's here. I'm not even touching it. But it isn't. It's all connected. And empathy and understanding of this can give a huge peace of mind. So more often than not, people just want their story to be listened to. They want someone to listen to them, how they feel, what they're feeling, what they're going through. And this can make a huge difference and a peace of mind. Our voice is very sensitive to emotions and can respond to life experiences in a fight, flight or freeze mode. So if you think about it, our voice is situated in our neck area, and it's a very, very small space within our body, and there is a lot going on, and we do hold a lot of our experiences and our stories, emotions there. Awareness of you as a whole human is the first step to accepting your voice and at times asking for help and guidance. It's integral. You find someone, whoever that may be, to listen to your story and treat you as whole, not just your voice.
That's beautiful, and I love that everything is connected in that way. Like you said, just because it's in the throat doesn't mean that it's not connected to the gut and all the different things, right? Like you say.
Our vagus nerve runs right through into our larynx and into our vital organs down to our gut. And that's why they call it the wanderer.
Yeah.
Because it wanders and it's all connected.
Yeah.
There's a reason for that.
Fabulous. And I like the way that you've taken it out into the environment as well to appreciate, like here we live in this biological diversity here in Far North Queensland, and when you look around and you think how everything is in a symbiotic relationship really with everything, right? Like not only should I say in our own body, but in our environment and everywhere around us.
If we start cutting our rainforests or, messing with our waterways, it all has a knock-on effect, and it's no different to our body as a system.
Yeah, such a beautiful reminder. Thank you so much for coming in this month, Keisha, for your tip, and we'll look forward to talking to you next month.
Thank you.
The Finding Mojo Show, brought to you by Cairns Voice Studio.
And welcome back to the Finding Mojo Show with Jo, and I'm talking with the author of Himalayan Dreams and director of e-motion video and training production, Kirsty Nancarrow. Welcome back to the show, Kirsty.
Thank you, Jo. I'm having a ball.
Oh, it's lovely to have you here, and I'm really grateful. I'll talk about this more in the gratitude section of how it all unfolded for me to meet you and where you're at right now. So earlier we were talking a bit about walking away in regards to finding your mojo again. That's how you found that you've been able to do it. Do you want to elaborate a little bit more on that, how that works for you?
Yeah, so I think you sometimes you just have to stop, and sometimes we're too stubborn to, and the universe takes over.
Oh, yes.
So I've had this happen a few times to me now. You'd think I'd learn. The most recent iteration was a few days ago where I had a busy work schedule in the Northern Territory, and I had actually a couple of book events while I was over there because I feel very connected to the Alice Springs community. So, and the lovely bookshop there hosted an author talk for me. And so, of course, I had to get these things over there, and they're very heavy. And I was only able to fit 37 in my luggage.
How much did that weigh?
A lot. I maxed out my luggage. I bought as much as I could on the flights to get there, and it cost me, I had to do it $40 to Darwin and then another $50 to Alice Springs.
Wow.
But I wanted to have the books there and share them with the community, my friends and my former colleagues and whatnot. Anyway, so obviously I had 2 big suitcases, and then I only had 1 suitcase to bring back, but it was quite heavy. And then I had to fit 1 suitcase in the other suitcase. And I recently broke my wrist as well, which was another sign of the universe to slow down. And so I'm there with my very heavy bag, and I'd managed to make it all happen, but I'd been rushing and everything. And I put my bag on the conveyor belt and then managed to almost rip my big toenail off at the same time. So I keep getting these every time I'm shoving too much into my day, which is often recently, I'm getting these signs that are quite painful from the universe that I should slow down and stop. And I had a business mentor say to me a few months ago, and it was brilliant advice, slow down to speed up. And I think when we just take a breath, when we take time, somehow it all works out. We're all so efficient. But I was so used to being in this deadline-driven environment and having lots of responsibility at the ABC that it kind of broke me, and I ended up with depression. And on medical advice, I had some time off, and then it ended up being a few months, and that was when I eventually went to Nepal because I was like, I need to do something to find my worth again. I'd lost my mojo.
Oh, wow.
I got to a point where I was just staring at the computer screen and not knowing how to turn it on and going, all right, there's nothing going on here I couldn't feel anything anymore. And I've always been a very compassionate person and someone who feels and expresses themselves. And there was just nothing. So I was like, I've got to find a way to get that back. So I volunteered with the Turtle Rehab Centre for a while, and that was a really lovely way of,
here in Fitzroy.
Actually when it was in Portsmouth.
All right.
Yeah. So when the turtles first came in, they were at the sickest, and they were at that facility for a while. It doesn't exist anymore, but yeah, just that process of doing something that was outside of myself, that was fairly repetitive, peeling prawns and vacuuming up turtle poo was my little entree back into I've got some worth again.
Wow.
Because I felt no self-worth at that point.
Yeah.
And then when I felt a bit stronger, I then went to Nepal and, just lived a simple existence, taught in the school, and that sort of feeling of self-worth, that purpose came back, the mojo, if you like. And, by the time I came back from Nepal, I felt quite a lot stronger and also resolved to find a way to do training as a career. So that really helped get my mojo back. So sometimes, you have to have this really blunt signal from the universe to stop. And I certainly did, because I ignored it for a long time and I could feel myself getting worse and worse. And then all of a sudden, when I was forced to stop, I went, all right, we've got to do something differently. So, and just going to Alice Springs, even though I was really, really quite busy, I did make time to go out and spend alone in the places that I know really recharge me. And I felt euphoric out there. It's really, I feel really connected to that country and the people out there.
Yeah.
And just to put my feet in the sand and the cool water in Simpsons Gap and have it completely to myself for a few moments was just like plugging myself back in and recharging. So I think sometimes, you just have to go to the places that you feel the best, whether they might be internal or external, and just stop and breathe.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing. And, I do hear that a lot from people, and I'm like that myself in regards to nature. I do find, when we can unplug and you just take the shoes off and go for a walk in nature. And like you said, you don't need long, but when you've got that time on your own, just to breathe, really, isn't it?
That's right. It's so important. And I've actually got a tattoo on my arm that pretty much says it's an Om symbol, and it represents breath, and it represents change. If you change nothing, nothing will change.
Oh, absolutely. And welcome back to the Finding Mojo Show here on Cairns FM 89.1 radio for the people, by the people. I'm in the studio today talking with author of Himalayan Dreams and director of eMotion Video Training Production, Kirsty Nancarrow. She's been playing some awesome songs for us today, and we've got another couple coming up. We're going to touch a little bit on International Women's Day coming up soon, Kirsty, on the 8th of March. Only in a couple of days' time. So in regards to, I suppose, touching on Himalayan Dreams, it's about empowering women in a sense too, like all around education and helping them to...
Absolutely. And that was really the start of the journey for me in a real sense, because I had interviewed Som after the earthquake in 2015. He's a Cairns resident. He's been here for 20 years. And by checking in with him and seeing how his progress was going back and forth to Nepal after the earthquakes, I began to learn more about his work with Friends of Himalayan Children. And then he reached out to me when I was the Chief of Staff at ABC and said, can we get you to MC our very first International Women's Day dinner?
Wow.
And these dinners became quite big events. So they happened, I think, 4 years in a row. COVID kind of put the brakes on with those, but they were very much a focus for raising awareness in the community and much needed funds to support the work that Som does in his village of Batassi. And it helps boys and girls, but really it's the girls that he was driven to help because of their vulnerability to sex trafficking and child marriage. So through pushing for the girls to go to school, which, challenges some cultural traditions in his village, and then facilitating that through providing a hostel, providing support for girls that want to stay with their families in the village to go to school, uniforms, books, all of the things that, can be overwhelming for families to afford and a barrier to education. By, making that happen with the focus around these International Women's Day events is actually able to make a huge difference with the help of the Cairns community.
Yeah.
So, it's always a significant day because, it is a big day for Friends of Himalayan Children. They usually have an event around about this time. And, it's an important day for me as well to reflect on where we're at, essentially. And I like to think we make small improvements every year. I founded Women in Media Far North Queensland.
Fantastic.
And again, that's this day is a focus for us as well. And we're now, our business has actually been proud sponsors of the Cairns Businesswomen's Club this is our 5th year. And Fulmaya, Som's sister, and I will be speaking at the International Women's Day lunch on Friday.
Fantastic. Okay, so we've got some exciting things to look forward to for International Women's Day all around Cairns, and also here on Cairns FM 89.1 from midday. We are going to be interviewing a host of women, including Kirsty's going to come in on the Cairns FM 89.1 from midday. We'll be actually doing that. So if you want to tune in and have a listen to some of the women in our community, stories that they've got to share and inspiration, it's going to be a lovely day of sharing. So Anna and I believe a couple of other of our women presenters will be interviewing. I'm actually going to be interviewing Tegan Costa from the Tegan Costa Project, Margaret Milutinovic, Rita Zapula from Rotary Cairns, and Keisha McLean, who is actually the sponsor for this show, Finding Mojo, and of course Kirsty Nancarrow, who's in here in the studio with me today. So some wonderful chats coming up for International Women's Day from midday on Friday, this Friday, the 8th of March. Now, Kirsty, I'm all about, empowering everybody as you are and sharing stories. International Women's Day is, a focus around the women. What's the next song you've got for us? And can you give us a little bit of a heads up on why you chose it?
Well, it is very much a women's empowerment song. It's What's Up by Four Non-Blondes. But I always like to qualify all the sentiment around International Women's Day. I'm not into male bashing, and
No.
I think it's about celebrating women and the achievements of women. But we have these amazing men like my husband, like Som, who are championing women all of the time. So this was the day that I met my husband, actually. It was Alice Springs, and I have always done some kind of community fundraising work. So I was fundraising for disability services in Alice Springs in my first year there, and I thought, I'll get a band and we'll have a bit of an event after I called it the Alice Springs Gold Rush. Everyone had to run in a relay with a wheelbarrow full of potatoes, which I pretended were gold nuggets.
Oh, wow.
And they ran from the Gap, Heavy Tree Gap in Alice Springs, to one of the hotels, and we had a bit of a barbecue and a band afterwards, and I rang a few bands, and most of them didn't get back to me, or they were quite, short with me and said, we don't play for free. But then I rang this lovely man who was very generous with his time, and they were one of the main bands in town at the time. And he said, I'll just check with my band partner, but we've got a gig that night, but we should be able to come and do that. And he said, don't worry about the PA, we'll sort that out. You just do your event and we'll be there, and
Wonderful.
We'll play music. And that was Sean Nancarrow.
Oh, really?
And so
the rest is history.
We didn't meet until the day, and
I love that.
it was so hot that after they did the first set and we handed out the prize money and everything, everyone left except for me and my flatmates. So they played the second set, and during that second set, they said, "Would you like to come up and sing a song?" And that was the song I that I sang.
You sang,
and
that's right.
That's right. So you'll remember from Saturday night that
Yes.
we relived that moment.
Yes.
So Sean and I on stage singing that song. So it's a very nostalgic song for us, and was the start of something. Not immediately. We were friends for a long time before the love blossomed, but that is how it all started, with this song.
How wonderful for sharing that. And yes, it was such a hit on Saturday night. Congratulations, you two. If you missed out, you don't know what you missed out on, but enjoy this anyway. What's Up by Four Non-Blondes.
Not my version.
And welcome back to the Finding Mojo show. My gosh, what a fabulous time I've been having in the studio with Kirsty Nancarrow. You are so inspiring. Thank you for coming in and talking with me today.
Thank you for having me. I'm having a lot of fun, and it's nice to to incorporate the songs and reflect on all the stories that surround them as well.
Yeah, and such special stories. I mean, all the songs you've played today are significant, and the last one we've got extra special as well, I'm sure. I mean, I love the song itself. I'm looking forward to hearing the story. And before we get there, how about, this is the gratitude section for the Finding Mojo show. Do you want to share with the listeners what you're grateful for today, yesterday, last year, whatever?
I'm always grateful for a lot, and the focus has generally been on others, or grateful for opportunities that I've had. But more recently, I've been trying to do a bit more work on self-gratitude. It's been lacking in my life, and actually got some inspiration on Valentine's Day this year and decided to write a love letter to myself. Okay. So it kind of embraces the self-gratitude, and it just kind of popped into my head. And actually a couple of days before that, the lovely Sophie Anderson, who's a coach in town, she bought a copy of Himalayan Dreams, and then she actually gave me this journal. Right. And I had the first opportunity to pick it up on Valentine's Day, and I wrote a little bit of a letter to myself. So I can share some of it with you if you like. But
would love you to.
Yeah, it says, "Dear Kirsty, you've done it. You've moved mountains to get here. You sought a way out of the darkness, hanging by a thread, and found your purpose again in the green terraces of Batassi. The children's smiles a balm, little hands in mine, guiding me down the narrow paths to a future of promise. In this tin shed with dirt floors, the first shoots of possibility broke through the hard earth. The children's lust for learning inspired me, and I found my new calling. I embraced the fear and the loneliness of this time and vowed to do something different. Change is in our hands. So first, I allowed myself to dream I could write a book about the man who made this all possible, Som. It gave me strength and purpose, but also fear. The physical effort of training to trek to Everest Base Camp was matched by the endurance test going on inside. And here you are. 7.5 years later, a true labour of love, a book in my hands, summing up the joy, pain and possibility of this life. Love, Kirsty."
Wow, thank you for sharing that. Oh my gosh. Yeah, and it's often can be the case. We don't stop to give ourselves a pat on the back, Like, it's great to strive and to achieve things, but noticing where we've come from and where we're going is, very important. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Look, I just would like to share that I'm grateful that I put my hand up for Barry to host the Rotary Hour quite a few weeks ago now, and that was before I knew that you were the guest, and then you came along and you shared about the story with the Himalayan Dreams and everything, and reconnected, and there's still somewhere in there I feel like I know you from somewhere, but apart from obviously all your work with the ABC over the years, but just there's a connection, and to be able to meet you and have this time, thank you so much. I'm grateful for you to come in and have this interview. I know you're a very busy lady, and everything that you do, is such an incredible contribution, in such a big way to the community and to, Som and his family and Nepal, helping all of those children over there for a better world. And that's, I'm grateful to have people like you in our community.
Thank you. And I'm just grateful to be part of a community that shares and inspires each other. I'm very stimulated by coming in and having a chat, and if there's anything from my experience that I can share that helps somebody else, then I'm very happy to do it.
Yeah, and that's what's opened up for me. I'm very grateful to come across Cairns FM 89.1. I love your story about talking about discovering it, from your teacher at school, sort of got you guys along for a field trip, if you like, and you discovered your mojo all those years ago. And I think I've discovered my mojo in here too, it's just remarkable to have the opportunity to have these conversations and share them with listeners. And again, like you say, building that community together, which is what Cairns Community Radio is all about here. Cairns FM 89.1, yeah.
And I love the power of radio. I mean, I have a video production company now and a video training company, but I always love how radio allows you to colour in the story for people. And I think the book does that as well. You have to paint a picture for people because they can't see what's going on. And I think radio does that so beautifully, and you do it so beautifully. So I hope you keep going with it.
Thank you. We'll see where I go with it. I didn't know I'd come this far, and I've got my own radio show. So, yeah, welcome to Finding Mojo, and I'll be continuing to discover how people find their mojo, what it means to them, to help those that may be struggling a little bit or need a little bit of inspiration. You know, come on board, listen to the show, and if you want to come and have a chat and share your story, get in touch on Cairns FM 89.1. And if you want to get involved with Cairns FM 89.1, you can call us on 0740536891, or you can email us at info@cairnsfm891.org.au. We're a friendly bunch, and we really love to help and get involved and inspire each other and the community. And now I have Kirsty, you have one last song, right? What have you got? Tell us why.
This is a big one. So this is probably one of my first musical memories. And I gave some gratitude to my mum earlier in the show. But this is a moment for my dad and I. So I think I was 4 years old, and I'd watched The Wizard of Oz for the first time. And I think it must have been a weekend and I'm an only child, so I was found in my room the next morning, and my parents had bought me this little xylophone with, you know, little keyboard and little xylophone. And they sort of came across me, or my dad came across me actually playing Somewhere Over the Rainbow.
Wow.
After having seen the film the day before. And, you know,
wow.
He just
worked out the sound.
I worked out the sounds, and I've always played music by ear. I don't play nearly as much as I used to.
Yeah.
But, yes, that was, and he just went to pieces. You know, this is such a beautiful moment for both of us. So I've always really connected with him around that song. And I lost him nearly 11 years ago. And every now and then I will hear this song, and it will just be, it's almost like it's played to remind me that my dad is always there, that he's always proud of me, that he's always got me. And, it's always going to be a very special song for us.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much for sharing that. And we will play this song for you, and I will be in touch, or I'll be doing Finding Mojo again next week at 1 p.m, talking to another special, beautiful guest, just like Kirsty, with so much to offer. Everybody's got a story, right?
Everyone has a story, Jo, and the more we share them, the more connection we have.